good afternoon, good night. How you doing? This is MCM and you're listening to You're Probably Right. Today we are going to have a serious conversation. Well, maybe not a serious conversation, but there's going to be a serious talk happening here. Now, of course, I'm only doing the talking, but just stay tuned. I can't seem to help. It's like you cast a spell. I'll keep loving you. You don't love me too. But I won't cry. I'll just sing a lullaby. You moved on already. I know I gotta stay strong. You said that you'd love me forever, but I guess that's gone. And I can't seem to hide all this pain that I feel inside. But that's okay, I'll just sing a lullaby. Listen, I can't seem to help. No. Oh, it's like you cast a spell. Can't believe we're through. You win and you lose. But I won't cry. I'll just sing a lullaby. Listen. You moved on already and I know I gotta stay strong. You said that you love me forever, but I guess that's gone. And I can't seem to hide all this pain that I feel inside. But that's okay, I'll sing a lullaby. Hey y'all, what's up? Okay, we're gonna do a special episode. I really gotta get this chair to stop squeaking. I think I need to start spraying it with what's it called? Silicone? Yeah, I'm gonna go grab some after this. Anyhow, I love silicone, man. It protects your shoes. Instead of buying that stupid shoe repellent stuff that costs like $20, you can get it for like $11 at Canadian Tire or someplace like that. You know, my style tips. Not really style tips, but how to save some money and get a better product. Who doesn't want that? Okay, so remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. I'll do my best to respect and to hide the private lives of other people, except my own. So, when I started doing this podcast, and maybe this thing's going to probably ask me that question, so maybe I shouldn't go over it, not right now, but it was kind of like, one thing I didn't get from my parents growing up was a lot of proper information into my history, into my family's history, into my past, into my upbringing, up to my parents' upbringing. I heard this and that, and mostly it was about discipline and behavior and whatever it is, but there was so much more that I really wanted to know, but unfortunately didn't have that much time. My parents were very busy, both worked hard and also worked in the church very hard, so there wasn't a lot of downtime for us to just chill out. There was always something to do, if not at home to get done or somewhere outside of home. Anyhow, so what I've done today is first of all, I had to write like a 2-page essay about who I am. And then basically what I did was that I broke it down to, I guess that was really the broken down part. I used AI here to develop some questions that I have not read because I wanted it to be fresh, and obviously I couldn't get these people to interview me, so I'm doing it in the style of maybe how they would have possibly asked questions. So I don't know really how embarrassing these questions might be for me to answer, so I'm gonna do my best. I mean, maybe there's some things I won't answer exactly how maybe somebody would like me to answer them, but I'm gonna do my best. Yeah, so as far as I know, this episode is number 208. It's called Unfiltered Unscripted, answering the questions I never prepared for. Okay, and that's basically what's going to happen here. So, welcome to You're Probably Right. Today's episode, I gotta put something in my mouth. That sounds weird. Today's episode is a little different. I didn't write down my answers. I didn't even prepare these questions. Instead, I let AI generate a mix of interview styles from some of the most legendary interviewers. Oprah Winfrey, Barbara Walters, and of course, Call Her Daddy, whatever. Just those types of things. And I'm just gonna do my best to answer the questions. Some of these questions might hit deep, I don't know. Some might make me, rethink everything. I honestly don't know. I'm just being open and honest. And some, well, we'll see how uncomfortable I get, but that's the fun part, right? I guess. No filter, no do-overs, just real talk. So let's get into it. So you understand the concept, right? I'm literally just going to answer questions that I have no idea what's going to be answered, but the first few questions probably will not be that personal. There are questions that will hit a little bit deeper, but I don't know if we're going to get to those because mostly they're just first questions are kind of like just one sentence. And then I guess we'll get down to the nitty gritty. Let's see if it makes sense because maybe they'll all be answered in the first few questions. So the first segment will be the Oprah Winfrey style questions that I'm going to answer, okay? For the record, though, I do think this is a healthy thing to do for anybody. Just to get in touch with your own story. Sometimes we think we know ourselves, but obviously you know what hurts you. You know what food you like. But how often do you go over your whole story? Beyond just complaining about something that your mom or your dad or your sister did when you're growing up. How really in touch are you with your story? So doing something like this by yourself, even these same questions, might help you to unpack a lot of things you've gone through, things that you haven't really thought of in a while, and I guess we'll see what happens. Here we go. First question. Let's start with a big one. If you had to pinpoint one moment in your life that completely changed the direction of everything, what would it be? I guess I'd have to go back to my childhood, and I would say the 3 years from grade 4, 5, and 6, my formative years as they call it, where I was psychologically bullied at school by two boys. They were cousins, and they were like power hungry, strange, really weird, and we're good athletes like I was at that time. I think we were the only black kids in our class, and unfortunately I got stuck with these guys for 3 years. And the teacher I had, who was also black but not really, he was South African. I'm not sure what he was, honestly. He seemed like he was black anyways. But he didn't really help the situation, and it really got weird probably by grade 5 when not everybody, those guys were called those guys. And all the little kids that would hang out with them, kind of like a little small little weird gang, or plebes or whatever it was. They all somehow bought these, t-shirts with a Def Leopard. It seemed like it was the Union Jack, whatever the Def Leopard symbol was, and they all bought these t-shirts. There was 5 of them. They all had these Def Leppard t-shirts, and everybody else that didn't have these t-shirts weren't really in the gang or in the group, but we would kind of phase in and out, and it was kind of like a dog eat dog world kind of thing, where people just didn't hang out with the people who were out on the fringes. And then you had the other kids that were kind of like I guess you'd call them losers back in the day, loners, nerds, whatever they were. Sometimes some kids that were respected, but they just weren't played with, that kind of thing. But I was like psychologically tortured those 3 years. And I think that shaped a lot within me. I was the youngest child of 4, and I think I had great empathy for others, especially those who weren't taken care of or treated right. And I was always the guy to step into a fight, even now. Even up to about a couple years ago, or a few years ago, when COVID happened. And just getting into a little story here, but there was this situation where I was selling a piece of audio equipment, something that I actually bought for my podcast, but it wasn't quite right, and I'd got a good price on it. Anyway, I went downtown to resell it to somebody else for a better price than I actually got it. Kind of funny, I'll probably be talking about me selling things for more than I paid later, which got me fired from the Bay. But anyhow, it was a return. Anyway, I'll get into that now. But the bottom line is, I went and I sold this piece of equipment. It was something 8, whatever it was called. But I was driving back, and there was just like 3 or 4 of us on the road. The roads were empty, absolutely empty. This is all the way downtown Toronto. And there was a Honda Civic driving in the front of us 3 cars, driving in front of us 2 cars. In front of me was a pickup, and then me behind in my, what was I driving? I think my RDX at that time. Can't remember. I think I was driving an RDX, but somehow it doesn't feel like I was driving an RDX. Anyhow, what had happened was the guy in the Civic was driving really ridiculous. He was cutting off the guy in the pickup. He wanted to go about his business, but for some reason the Honda was trying to hog the whole road. So the guy in the pickup got totally frustrated and swerved and got in front of him, and then he was it even a light? It wasn't even a light. He just turned his car sideways, blocked off the intersection, got out of the car, started screaming. The guy in the Honda jumped out. He started screaming. His girlfriend in the Honda, the guy's girlfriend in the Honda, jumped out. She started screaming, "What are you doing? Get back in the car, blah, blah, blah." Anyhow, they were ready to go at it. I'm like, what the heck is going on, man? We're like the only people on this downtown street, like a major, I don't know if it was, when we were on Young, I think it was Young. We got up to Young and probably Young and close to Young and Shepherd, I'm thinking, because we were coming from the heart of downtown. Anyhow, I jumped out of my car too. I'm like, what's going on? I gotta stop this, because the girl's like jumping on her boyfriend's back, trying to get him to stop, and they're about to go at it. I got in there. I got in the middle of it, stopped it. She said, "You're crazy." She jumps back in the car. Those guys are still arguing. I break up the fight. I said, "Man, just get in your car. Just get in your car. I know, I understand. Get in your car." And I was saying the same thing to the guy in the pickup truck, and he's like, "Well, he's cutting me off. I don't know what his problem is. Blah 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 blah." And then the guy left, and then the guy in the pickup, the Civic guy left. The guy in the pickup, which I've talked about this before, but anyhow, the guy in the pickup truck goes to me. He goes, "That guy is so lucky you stopped." And I go, "Why?" He goes, "Look." And he had his fist balled up, and as he opened his fist and kind of straightened his arm, this long, probably about 18 inches screwdriver came out of his sleeve. He was gonna stab the guy with it, but he was just making sure he had the upper hand before he would actually need to use it. And I look at it and I say, like, I got out of the car. Probably not a good idea, but in that case, I probably I don't know, probably saved a guy from a lot of injuries, possibly worse. But anyway, that's just from me growing up as a kid and being not treated very well by so-called classmates, peers, so-called friends. We're all mixed up into one. All right. Next question. What is something you once believed about yourself that you no longer think is true? Something I once believed. I think once I believed I was stupid, and I don't think that's true anymore. I think with the right tools, anybody can learn. With the right tools, you could be successful. With the right tools, you can produce work that you probably never thought you could possibly do before. It might be something as simple as the invention of Kurzweil, or the fact that you can speech to text with Word. Just because, well, the reality is, again, I go back to those years. Those years were really, really horrible for me. I used to dread going to school every single day. I used to be so happy to home. I used to go home. Sorry, like burping, drinking water. Sorry. I used to go home from for lunch every day, just to get away from these kids. So I would walk the 20 or so minutes, come home, and if I was lucky, my mom was home. If she wasn't, it was just me. And so when I was able to, I didn't do it all the time, but when I was able to go home for lunch, I would go home, watch my Flintstones cartoon, and eat my ravioli or whatever I got to eat that day, and I would just be happy to be home. But anyways, my teacher used to call me stupid. He used to call me by my last name and ask me if I was stupid. Just when I, mess up or do something stupid. So he would literally ask me. And for some reason, that always rang in my head. And I think it's like it's sunk in at some point. And, growing up with dysgraphia, I also had to get extra help at school. And, so I thought I was dumb. But anyways, moving on through my life, I realized I wasn't. When I started holding down conversations with people who were either related to me or just people who were intelligent and kids who were supposedly getting good marks and doing good in high school and in university, and I went to college and everything at the beginning of my adulthood, and I did okay. And I was wondering, why am I able to pull down A's and B's on tests and stuff like that if I was so stupid? And at this time, I still didn't have any access to any technology that could help me with some of my work, because, having dysgraphia, it's difficult for me. Like if somebody tried to spell something out in the air for me, sometimes I don't get it so quickly. A lot of the time it's me paying attention to them, trying to see me figuring it out. It's kind of weird. But anyhow, from the conversations that I've had, from being in meetings where it was just me, the so-called, how can I put it? But anyways, I was in meetings with lawyers. That's the best way for me to put it. Lawyers and doctors, and trying to advocate for other individuals. And I was able to help. I was able to intelligently have conversations and state my points and argue against other people. Even in my court case for my kids, I was able to argue against a lawyer on my own and stand up for myself. And I realized, maybe I wasn't as dumb. Then, just writing essays in college and realizing that I have all this stuff inside of me, and people telling me that I'm a good writer and helping other people with their work, I found out that I wasn't dumb. I've helped people who have way higher paying jobs than I do for years now do their homework, in college, and realizing that, I'm not dumb. So that should answer that question for you. Next question. If you could have a 5-minute conversation with yourself, already did that. What's the one thing you'd make sure to say? Okay, obviously I didn't read that properly, so I still got reading issues, obviously. If you could have a 5-minute conversation with your younger self, there you go. We all know that, right? What's the one thing you make sure to say? And they're thinking about it and trying to read it at the same time, whatever. Try hard. Try hard. Do your best. Nobody can expect anything more than your best. Give a good effort. Don't give up on your actual dreams, things that you want to do. But if you have dreams, which I know you do because you're my younger self, focus on those dreams. Don't focus on people. Don't focus on trying to be liked. Tell the truth, no matter what, and stand up for those who can't stand up for themselves. That's probably what I would say. Okay, next question. Everyone has a whisper moment, that quiet inner voice that tells them they need to change or take a new path. Have you ever had one of those moments? The only time that I can actually think of was when I was getting married the first time. And I'll never forget that evening. We just got married. Totally bombarded with socializing would be the best way to put it. And we were off to a hotel in Toronto because we weren't going very far. I was 21, and I just turned 22. Anyhow, I was like, I can't remember the conversation, but I remember my wife at that time walking in front of me to the hotel from the car. And I was like, in my chest, it was like, this marriage isn't going to work, right? Honestly. And that's where I was, newly married just that evening. And something already said it wasn't going to work. I can't remember what she said or what she did. It was something that ticked me off that I was like, ugh. It was like that yuck. And it didn't work. So I would say, yeah, if it was anything, that was one of the first times that I remember, and it hit home. And it's like I believed it. Not that I didn't try, and it's not that I even revisited that voice or did self-talk to talk myself off of a ledge or something like that. It's just something really, really hit home where it was almost like me, my older self, talking to my younger self while I was younger. Yeah. So anyways. And at that time, I had no reason to believe that was going to be the case. Everything was great up until then. Okay. Next questions. The Barbara Walters style questions. Deep, personal, and emotional. Oh, I hope not. Here we go. All right, here we go. You've shared stories about struggles, wins, lessons learned, but let's flip the script. What's one thing people don't know about you that would completely surprise them? Let's see. I don't know that I really did anything that had to do with wins, but I'm still thinking of the question fully. Well, apparently it surprises people, but I don't. If I was voting, I wouldn't vote liberal. There's nothing liberal about me when it comes to what is going on in this day and age in society. I would say I'm definitely more on the conservative side, but I don't see myself as political. So I would like to say I'm right down the middle, and I think that's the most politically correct thing to say, is that you're down the middle. I understand the plight of people who live these tortured, bothered lives, and for what it really would be, DEI, giving everybody a chance is obviously the best case scenario. But at the same time, I don't want to be just given things just because of the color of my skin or my sexual orientation or where my parents came from or the history of the treatment of my people in any country. I care about all people. I was brought up mostly around white and black people. I mean, Monday through Friday, as a kid, I would be one of the members of the only black family on the street that I was raised on. But on Sundays, on the weekends, and sometimes throughout the week, because we used to go to church a lot, I would be surrounded by only black people from Jamaica mostly. And the Christian religion, at least from their standpoint of what they believed the Christian religion was in the Pentecostal church, a church of God. So I would say from a cultural, racial standpoint, I'm pretty well-rounded, and I do my best not to fall down anybody's cultural, racial rabbit hole. So yeah, I would say that. Not that shocking. And I don't know if that would really surprise anybody. Yeah, that would be about it. Nothing really big there. Next question. Mine and Barbara Walters don't know that. Okay, let's see. If someone were to describe you at your lowest point, what would they say? Someone were to describe me at my lowest point. Well, definitely not afraid to cry. A person who knows how to take it on the chin, and maybe I'll stumble a little bit, but my resolve would never change. So misery doesn't, for me, my misery never loves company. I could be the most miserable inside, but I would still be able to laugh. Probably really good at compartmentalizing the different things that are happening in my life. Like, here's a joke that somebody might want to know. Recently in my job, and this is just to back up that, it has nothing to do with it really, but I took on a little side hustle at my job for 8 weeks of my life to support families and foster loving families and mentors and mentees and kids. And this job is going to pay me a little bit of money, a few hundred. I thought, cool. And just the day after 3 weeks in, and this is going to be an 8-week thing, I think 3 weeks in or 4 weeks in, I decided what I was going to do with this money. And that was, I was going to get myself a gym membership and think about trying to get back in shape again, because I used to be a gym rat. Some people are shocked. But unfortunately, came home, found a letter, ripped to the side. My kid, obviously, he learned to open letters like I do. I push all the mail, I knock the mail down on one side, kind of like a deck of cards. And then I rip the side, and then I pull up the whatever the mail is. Pulled it out. What did I see? I got a ticket for speeding. I did 81 in a 50 zone. It's not a highway traffic act. It wasn't done by a police officer. It was actually, I guess, one of those cameras in Markham. So be careful if you're on McDowell Street, I think it is, near the, what do you call it? The movie theater there, the VIP movie theater. Anyhow, the ticket is for $35 less than the money that I was supposed to be, that I'm going to be receiving for doing this side hustle. Kind of ticks me off. I kind of want to see if I can fight it, but at the same time, it's like on a principle, it's almost like you just need to take this one, because what business do you have driving that fast in a 50 zone? So obviously they know it's a place that people speed, so it's probably set up that way. It's the best way. I don't know if I'm a conspiracy theorist, but obviously the police know where people speed. They know where to put the cameras, obviously. And anyhow, yeah, so that's a story there. And what that has to do with the question, but the bottom line is nobody would ever know that about me, right? Nobody would know that I was absolutely upset about this, that, you know, I'm giving certain hours of my evening to this thing, although I'm still helping people, so that's still beneficial. I'm still fostering love, I'm still fostering family, I'm still guiding, I'm still having fun. The people expect to see me, and I'm happy that can still happen. But as far as taking care of my own stuff, not to mention my taxes, my job's not taking enough taxes, so I've been taxed a lot this year, but I'm still able to smile, still able to have fun, I'm still able to be happy, I'm still able to just put that over there. If anything, that's probably my fault, where I'll put things over there. The thing is, I just need to kind of meet things head on, if anything, so that I don't have to, from time to time, wallow in, you know, what's not right in my life. Right. So that's the answering that question, hopefully. I mean, I answered it the way I want to, I guess, right? Next question. Was there ever a time you felt like giving up? And if so, what stopped you? Definitely, you know, I would say probably the breakdown in my last marriage. You know, I just felt like, you know, situations happened and I was definitely not on the right side of things. I didn't show as much patience as I should have. And I think that's one thing, again, that as a husband, you need to be as patient as possible when, you know, you have a wife. That's, you know, or when things aren't going right, husband or wife, really. The one thing that you have to learn is patience. You have to understand, and this is something that I didn't have usually. I guess my dad would have been that person for me, but again, being 49 years apart in age would obviously show you that at some point you're going to be a man and he will not be there to answer the questions. Hence, I have this podcast. So maybe my kids, maybe my grandkids might one day open up and listen to some of this stuff, and hopefully something that I'm saying right now will help them so that they don't have to go through the things that I've gone through. I've always said to my kids that, you know, definitely not perfect. I've made mistakes. And if you can learn from something that I've done, at least learn from my mistakes. And if I offer to open the door for you, then all I'm asking you to do is walk in. Don't shut the door and knock on it. In other words, there'll be times when doors will be open for you by those who love you. Feel free to walk through and, you know, and enjoy, because there will be doors that you will have to knock down, you will have to knock on to get open for yourself. But when somebody opens the door for you, the best thing for you to do is just to walk in and say thank you. Okay. So there was a time when I felt like giving up, and that was at the end. And it was kind of sad for me. It was a Christmas. I'll never forget. It was the first Christmas that I didn't just spend with family. I just didn't feel like I belonged anywhere. And my family that I had at that time, some of them, well, she and my child, little small child, were leaving the country, going to Cuba for Christmas. And I had to drop off my son to her so that she could take him. And they went about their merry way. And I said, okay, cool. Dropping my kid off in Scarborough, right close to Scarborough Town Center. So what I did was I went to the movies. Went to the movies by myself. Something that I don't have a problem with, but apparently a lot of people do. Can't go to malls by themselves, can't go to movies by themselves, can't go to clubs by themselves, can't do anything by themselves. One thing I can do is do things by myself, and I have no problem doing that. And there's always going to be someone there doing it too. You know, maybe we're a select few, lone wolves, or whatever you want to call us, but I'm very, very secure in my own self, who I am. So I can do anything by myself. And I think if people get there, they'll understand. But until you do, can't do it. Even one thing I did also was, one time I actually took myself in that same time period, was I went to a restaurant and I also sat down. I think it was Moxie's. I think it was Moxie's. The funny thing about the name Moxie's, that was my father's name. Anyway, I went to Moxie's grill or whatever it is, and I had a nice juicy steak. I sat there by myself in the middle of the restaurant, and I felt no way. I was comfortable. But, well, obviously, sometimes I, here and there, but I was like, no, I'm doing this because I planned to do this. I did it on purpose. I could have said, hey, I could have brought one of my kids. I could have brought a sister. I could have brought, so-called friends. But I wanted to go by myself. Just to try it out, because apparently this was like something really taboo in society, and nobody does it. Or at least not normal people, right? I'm very comfortable in being the weirdo. So I did that. If time allows, maybe I'll get into it a little bit more. But yeah. So anyhow, going back to that situation, it was Christmas time, very important time for me, as being a Christian. And I always believed that was a time for family and getting together and being happy and giving gifts and all that stuff. And it just wasn't a happy time for me. So dropped my kid off, went to the movies. I spent all day at the movies. I can't remember the first movie right this second. I think it was one of the Lord of the Rings movies. Anyhow, let's just say it was, because there were 6 of them, right? I think it was a Lord of the Rings movie because they always came out at Christmas time. And then I saw Django. So whatever year that Django just came out, that was that year. So you can Google it quickly. 2000 and what? Anyhow. So, but I mean, I did feel like giving up. And I was in a little bit of, a rough patch at that time. And I semi gave up, but not really. It was more of a pity party. And I kind of just wallowed in it to myself. It was a cry for help, I say, after that day when I went to the movies all day. And I felt good about doing that, by the way. I didn't want to hang out with my mom and my sisters at that time. I just wanted to be alone. So that's what I did. And I came home probably about 11 o'clock, realized that Christmas was over. And it is what it is. I moved back home, if it was a breakup, but I was already home anyways. I just didn't want to do the Christmas thing with my family like that, knowing that my marriage was over, my kid and my wife were gone out of the country to Cuba or whatever. I think it was Cuba. She went off with her friends or whatever, her family's friend or her friend's family, and my kid. And yeah, and I was home and I was by myself, even though I had my other two. I think they had gone to visit their other side, or they just had time to spend with, like, I had my nephews and everybody over. So everybody was still there. I just wasn't kind of stuck in the middle of everything. And that's where I needed to be. Anyhow, subsequently, for months after, I was in a little bit of a lull. And I got really, really, really low. Whereas every day, I didn't even want to be here anymore, period. I knew that I was a Christian. I knew that I had lived a life. I've done my best as far as I thought at that time. And if something happened to me, I was 100% okay with it. And that's where I was. But, so I can't really say that I was heading towards anything really, but at the same time I was. But anyhow, I just kind of let time, they say time heals all wounds. I just kind of stuck it out. Again, still being happy, still being jovial, still being a productive person in society and in my family, but I was totally miserable. So, how do you get over bad situations in your life? One step at a time, one day at a time. That's it. You're going to feel bad until you feel better. And that's just how it is. Sometimes some parts in our life are just rough. And all you can do is put one foot in front of the other. Put on one sock at a time. One shower at a time. One meal at a time. And live. All right. Next question. Love, it's complicated. It's messy. It's beautiful. What's the hardest truth you've had to accept about love and relationships? I would say the hardest thing that I probably had to accept is that people get into relationships for different reasons. And very, very, very seldomly will you meet or be with someone who truly loves you for who you are and who loves you at the same level that you love them at that same time. It's very, very, very difficult to find someone who cares about you as much as you care about them. Usually they care about you more, or they don't care about you as much. And the issue with that is, which I think is actually fine, to tell you the truth, but the issue is selfishness. When people are selfish and they don't care for you as much as you care for them, it makes life horrible. It's the best way to put it. And you very rarely will ever get out of something as much as you are putting in many times. Many people think that you get what you put in, but sometimes you put in way more than you get out. And the problem with doing that for too long is you get drained, and then you don't have anything to give. And sometimes there's very little that you need to actually give. And if your stores are empty, you have nothing to give. And therefore, it ends up making you a failure because you've over tapped your resources. So be careful. Next question. What's the biggest misconception people have of you? Well, except for one person that I know, most people think that I'm smarter than I actually am. That's the joke. That's the misconception on me. Even when I got myself in trouble and I got fired from the Bay, I was really upset, and this person couldn't believe that this wasn't some diabolical plan. So the whole time I'm like, man, I didn't know. They literally thought that this is something that I worked out, and this was just something that I do. And I couldn't for the life of me prove to them that this was just a one-off situation. They literally thought that I had some big scam going or something like that, and this was something that I could do regularly, and I had this amazing plan. And it was kind of funny because I'd screwed everything up, but at some level I was kind of flattered that they thought I was that smart. Anyhow, it was a good scam, I guess. But it was just messed up, really. I didn't steal anything, by the way. Didn't hurt anybody. It was just a bad situation and a bad choice. Okay. That was funny. But that's the truth. There's other misconceptions too, but I think I'll just leave those misconceptions. They can be by themselves. Okay, number 3. Okay, supposedly they call her daddy questions. It's edgy, no holds barred, supposedly straight talk. All right, let's shake things up a little. What's the most reckless decision you've ever made, and do you regret it? Reckless. Well, the dumbest thing I ever did was at church when I was a little kid. I took a bobby pin and I stuck it into an outlet. Don't know why. Found a bobby pin on the ground at church on the carpet, and yes, the church had carpet. And I was bored out of my skull. I was sitting with my dad, about 3 or 4 rows from the front, and there happened to be a light socket, and there, not light socket, an outlet, and there happened to be a bobby pin. Obviously, you're going to find many of those probably at a black church. Women trying to keep their hair this way or that way. Anyhow, took it, separated it, stuck it in the in the outlet, knocked off all the lights while I think the preacher was preaching. I was taken to the back of the church. My dad was embarrassed, but I think now that I look at it, I don't know that he was not only embarrassed, I think he was shocked that I didn't die. So he wasn't as hard or harsh as I know the other people at the church wanted him to be with me. And we moved on with life. But let's see. I guess that would be the most reckless thing I did. The dumbest thing, I guess. As an adult, though, reckless not because of me, though, but I remember walking downtown, Montego Bay, in 2000 and I think 8 or 9. I was down there with my sister and my wife at that time. My ex. Anyhow, they wanted to go walking. They wanted to walk the markets. It's 10, 11 o'clock at night. We took some random taxi dude down there. He dropped us off and we went into the markets and looked at stores, looked for things to buy. And I had to put on my best, I call it my Jamaican accent, because although both my parents are Jamaican, kind of like how, you'll have 2 people from China and their kids, you just consider them Chinese. But for some reason, when you're from the West Indies, or especially black countries, predominantly black countries, when you come up here, all of the people who were born there, even if they were only there till they were 7, and they talk to you when you're 7 or what, you're the same age as them, but you hadn't spent those 7 years in the country, even though you were just as immersed into the culture as they were, for some reason they don't consider you from there. But anyways, I was there, could talk and, as they say, chat patois as good as anybody else. Apparently they always know, but I know that's not true because I've had friends who've come up from there and had no clue that I wasn't born there and I could talk it just as well as anybody else. But because of what they say, these people, who are they are them, I call it my Jamaican accent. Anyway, I had to do that every once in a while, trying to get a deal down there. If they knew that I was Canadian, they probably would have dealt with me a little bit different. But it was reckless in the fact that I was the only person out of, it was just 3 of us walking the streets down there, trying to get deals when anything could have gone on. And at that time, it was slightly after the time they were calling it the murder capital of the world. And I know I wasn't in Kingston, but Montego Bay, in any urban city outside of Canada, I would say it can be pretty rough, right? Every city has their rough parts, and we just were plopped down straight there. We were staying in a place called Discovery Bay, my uncle's house, where we had I don't want to get into that. Just say that house was very, very well off. And apparently, as he says, he was the only person on the island who had a red Jaguar. So anyway, he was that guy. All right, next question. Let's talk relationships. What's one mistake you made in a past relationship that you'd never repeat? Repeat. That's a good question. I think I probably would never step out of a relationship again, whether it was a bad relationship, whether it was a sexless relationship, whether I wasn't happy. I don't think I would ever try to find happiness outside of unhappy marriage ever again. I think I would just be where I'm at and suck it up and try to make it better, work to make it better, actively work to make it better so that I don't have to live in a miserable existence. The problem is, at the end of the day, though, it does take two to tango. It does take two to make something better between two people. One person can't be just pandering to the other trying to fix it. It just won't work. And both people have to care. And that's what I would say to that. But as far as stepping out, no. Wouldn't, because the end result is never good for anybody. Next question. If you could bring back one ex for 24 hours just to have one final conversation, would it be what? Who would it be? And what would you say? Well, I could say that I could say I was sorry, right? But I've already said that, and it didn't make a difference. We've even patched things up so that we were good. We've patched things up so I've helped. Again, I've signed on the dotted line for different things, and I've we're good. I mean, my older kids, their mother has moved on, married. Happy she's out of the country. She ever hears this, I don't care. And I'm happy where I am now in my life, where and I'm happy that she's happy. And if we talk, when we do, there's nothing but respect and no issues between us. And I'm happy that she's moved on, found love, and had 2 other kids. I only wish that she would have given more love to my kids and not just given up on being a mother to them. And I don't know, for some reason she probably thinks she's a mother even though she's out of the country, but that's not realistic. That's one thing I couldn't do, is leave the country with my kids being left with the mother, even as just the dad. Even though I probably would believe that they were in good hands, which of course she knew, but I just couldn't fathom doing that for me, myself personally. But I mean, what would I say really is beyond I hope you're happy. You know, I hope your decision is the right one for you and for your kids. Next question. If someone had full access to your search history for the past month, would they be shocked? What's the most random thing they'd find? Search history. I don't know. I think everything would be random. So because everything would be full of stuff that's random, nothing would be random really. I look at all kinds of stuff. I might look up a song. I might look up a pride of lions. I might look up sports and plays in different sports or different things. Like, everything's random for me. So it could be something on religion, animals, sports, philosophers, education. Could be anything. So good luck. Okay, and let's see, last question here. Not very good. Well, I love these good questions, but whatever. I have another set of questions. I'm going to try to finish this up. Already at 54 minutes. Your podcast is raw, unfiltered, and at times brutally honest. But what's one thing you're still too afraid to say out loud? I don't really have anything. I'm sure my life is as seedy as the next person's, but there's nothing that I'm really afraid to really say. I mean, the only thing that I don't really do is swear on my podcast. You're never going to hear the F word out of me or whatever it is, or some really nasty language, really. I think I've said the N word on here before. I don't do it, so like I think I probably did it one time, but it was It wasn't even the hard ER, it was the A. And, in passing, I've said it, but I've kind of stopped saying it at all just because some people get offended by it. I understand. It's from my understanding of words, they change all the time. Some people are upset by it. I'm not, because I've heard it before in different contexts. And again, from a Jamaican background, it's been said many ways in different ways. I've heard it said in an ignorant way, in a racist way before, and I understand the difference and understand the stuff that different cultures go through. And even within the so-called black community, there are people who come from different countries throughout the world that are predominantly black, and their experiences are not the same as my experience or my parents' experience being Jamaicans. And even my father, who was born and raised in Jamaica, but from an early age, probably from about 17, started working abroad in places like Florida and England, and the United States, in Boston also, not only Florida. And he had a lot of stories. He only told me a few of them, but many of them weren't that great to black people. But I wouldn't be so I've never been afraid to use that, but I don't use it around people who are uncomfortable with it just because of how it makes them feel. Yeah, don't worry, there's some washing in the background and some noise making, but I'm fine with it. Whatever. It is what it is when you have kids. At least somebody's washing something. That's good. So now I'm going to get into some other deep questions about me, more like focused about my life in a clearer sense, but I don't know if I'll be able to answer every one of these questions here. So maybe that's what I'd be afraid to answer. But I will be doing my best to be as genuine as possible, but don't be surprised if I can't fully answer. Now, 57 minutes, here we go. Where are we exactly? 57 minutes and 14 seconds. Great. Okay. How has your Canadian Jamaican heritage and strict Pentecostal upbringing influenced your values, outlook on life, and approach to relationships? Well, for sure, honesty is the best policy. And at the end of the day, I know that only what we do for Christ will last. Now, is that from my Pentecostal, my Jamaican heritage? No, that's from the scriptures in the Bible. So my outlook again on life is, I know that life will be hard. Life is hard. My upbringing would have told me that eventually everything would come around full circle. And, people will say, well, what you sow, or what you put under the dirt will arise, or what you sow you will reap. That's basically what that means, sowing and reaping. But I also understand that we're not guaranteed wonderful things at the end of life. So all you can do is do your best. We're not all going to get the biggest, baddest Mercedes and the sweetest house. We're not all going to raise the most wonderful children, even if we try. But, and as far as relationships are concerned, I just believe that if you just do your best, if both people can do their best, if they can both love, cherish, honor, and respect one another, then I believe it can work. But anytime someone decides to let those things lack in the relationship, they won't work. And it's just that simple. And then it's from where you are there, what do you do? And I understand that marriage is a binding covenant between the two people in the marriage and God. And that's the way you have to look at it, so that even if you're not happy, you will stay and you will still respect the covenant. You will honor your agreement. You will honor your love and your respect for the other person. Cherish them even if they don't cherish you, until death do you part. And that's one thing, on a whole, that I guess I didn't do at the end of it. I wasn't happy. They weren't happy. And the question is, it's just like, what are you going to do about it? Right. And I also have learned that not everybody, just thinking of the Pentecostal church, not everybody who says they're a Christian are real Christians. But the Bible says that the wheat and the tares, you can Google that if you don't know what those two things are, must grow together. And once they grow up, you'll be able to tell the difference. But at first, the small plant, the seeds, can't really tell the difference. But you'll understand the usefulness of them at the end. One will have no use and one will have all the use. Okay, next question. You have worked as I'm not going to say what my job is, but let's see. For most of almost 2 decades. Yes, I had one job for almost 2 decades now. So this is post being booted from the Bay and a couple jobs in between there. How has that experience shaped your emotional well-being, sense of responsibility, and communication style, both at work and at home? Well, one thing I profess today, and I've said it a few times this year, is whoever I am at home is the same person I'm at work. Now, obviously, you have certain boundaries that you need to not cross, but I just try to be the same person. And basically, I just try to be me everywhere I am, and hopefully within the rules that are dictated. So at home, obviously, I can be a lot looser, but because I'm not a wild and crazy person, you probably wouldn't notice much difference. I probably laugh just as much at home as I do at work. I, a sense of responsibility, I like to get my work done, and I like to get it done even if it takes me a long while, or if I have to sit in and get something done. But I also like to coast at the same time. So I'm hardworking, and when I'm chilling, I'm chilling. So work hard, play hard. That's kind of how I look at it. If I do my job as much as I can possibly do, and sometimes I go overboard, I just know that when I'm ready to chill, I can chill, and I can sometimes go overboard with chilling because I did my work properly. And that's it. Looking back on your early experience with bullying and family struggles, what personal lessons did you carry forward into adulthood and now have the impact, and now how they impacted your sense of self-worth? Well, as I was saying, with bullying, I've just learned that I need to be there for people who can't fight for themselves. And that's just something that I've taken with me. As far as family struggles, didn't really have family struggles per se. I've had situations where people came around my family. My family were the family that my dad and my mom probably sponsored over 10 to 15 people, probably more, maybe more like 20, just of themselves. And I guess you could add on the offspring from those families. But the only thing I would say is be careful who you bring around your family. That's definitely what I've learned. So looking back on it, you never know. I mean, these people are the sweetest people to the parents, but they're not always as sweet to the kids. And you got to be careful who you bring around your kids, because they will damage your kids if you give them the opportunity. Be careful who you leave with your kids without you being there. They also, one thing that I've learned, which is totally false, is that just because you were abused, it doesn't mean that you will be an abuser. If anything, it's the opposite. You'll be more likely to not, and to be careful and caring for those who have been abused or in danger of being abused. Yeah, so that should answer that. Next question. You have openly discussed infidelity in past marriages. What do you believe went wrong, and what have you learned about trust, monogamy, and your own readiness for commitment? Well, the funny thing about my first marriage is it broke down because, let's just say, we had two different outlooks on life and what things were necessary and important in life. I was more focused on work. She was a stay-at-home mom. I think the longest that she worked in our relationship was was it 3 weeks or 3 days? It was really short, and it was at McDonald's. Oh no, actually, she became a manager or assistant manager of a store too. Yeah, that must have been for 3 months, I think. And that was it for that marriage. How long were we married? I think we were married for, was it 8 years? 8 or 9 years? I can't remember. All I know is that eventually there was no care to the marriage. There was no care to the situation. I found myself working a full-time job and then coming home and preparing meals and giving baths to my kids. And there was no care. It was all about, as soon as I got home, she was on her way out. And a few different situations happened, which I will never accuse anybody of anything that I can't prove, but that's just the way it was. And then I started moving on with my life because I realized that this person did not care for me at all, and it was okay for me to work myself to the bone. And that marriage ended. And then the second situation, a lot different, but not different in some ways. And I probably attracted the same type of person, but differently, definitely harder working outside of the home and more ambitious. Well, yeah. But as I said, if you are with somebody who really doesn't love you and isn't practicing love, because people say, what is love? Love is commitment. It's a regular commitment. It's a regular commitment of knowing what your place is in the relationship, your responsibility is, and daily, regularly fulfilling your commitment, not calling on excuses or other people to do what they're supposed to do, but also by doing your part. And I think that's where the breakdowns happened. It was like, what was my job? Or, let's just say, and the reality is it's true, but if me and someone or you and someone take a book, right? And in that book, or let's see that library, there's 66 books. And you both say that you're going to live according to what these 66 books say, then your fiduciary right or responsibility is to do what you both agreed upon. And because you swore in front of the people that you got married in front of and God to do those things, when when the rubber hits the road and you're trying to figure out if you don't want to follow what your husband says as a wife, if you don't even want to listen to him, the one thing I can say is, if you're going to live your life and say that your moral compass, your spiritual compass, the who you are is supposed to be managed and helped and guided by those 66 books, and you come up with a disagreement, you should be able to go back to that moral basis, and hear what it says and let it direct you in the right path. If you can't do that, no matter what book you depend on, you're going to have issues. Even if you're looking at two different books, if there's no deciding factor and it's just going to be how you feel or how that person feels, or the strongest will survive, then everything's going to go wrong. And that's what happened, basically. Without putting people's lives on blast, you know what I mean? All right. Here we go. After multiple marriages, I love this. Multiple. Come on, man, there was 2. After multiple marriages and raising 3 children, what do you see your biggest achievements in co-parenting, and how do you handle disagreements or tension with your ex? First of all, I don't have tension with my ex-partners. I don't have crazy baby mamas. None of them are in jail. One of them's out of the country. I was able to finagle that one. No. Co-parenting, I just do my best. I do whatever is asked of me and more. As I said, my kids live with me, right now. My kids are big. Technically, 2 of them could be living on their own somewhere else or having their own families at this point. But I think that I've done the best that I could have done. Can't say I always made the right choices in different ways, but I think I've done a pretty good job. I know that I've raised good kids, respectable kids, respectful kids, ambitious kids, loving kids, and can't really ask for more. Everything could be worse, and of course everything could be better. I could have done a better job, of course. I'm not perfect, but I thank God that there's no arguments. And sometimes I've learned that it's better to take the high road in the sake of peace, right? It said, blessed are the peacemakers, and blessed are the meek. So I play that. I take that role. I don't try to cause trouble or make problems where we don't need problems. And if there's a chance to make peace or be right in a situation, I'd rather just make peace, because I'm not fighting over anything with someone that I'm not even with anymore. There's no point to it. So I'd rather just take the wrong and let God figure the rest out for me. Because I believe it says in the Bible that all things work for the better, all things work together for good, to those that love God and who are called according to his purpose. And because I love God, because I believe that I've been called according to his purpose, I know that eventually every situation through life on to death will work out better. So I try to do my best, and I don't have to be right. I don't have to have the upper hand either. I've learned to humble myself. And I've been pretty much humble most of my life, but of course I've gotten out of reign and gotten out of hand, of course, like everybody else. And I just realized the best practice is to stay humble and to be meek when you can. And when you don't know what to do, sometimes just do a little bit more on your side to offset anything that you expect should have been done by others, and everything will work out, and time will heal many things. Okay, so you've mentioned practicing celibacy for the last few years. What motivated this decision, and has it changed your perspective on intimacy and long-term relationships? First of all, I can honestly say I didn't think that I'd make it this far. I haven't gone on. I don't believe in chasing women. I don't believe in paying for sex. I don't believe in sleeping around. It's part of the reason why I was married, is because I didn't want to live that type of life, and I didn't want to bring any children in this world without having a mother and a father that were, together in marriage. So that hasn't ever changed. I'm hoping that if it's not going to stay this way, that I do find the right one, and that I don't have to live a debauched, loose, crude, lascivious type of life. I don't want that for myself or for anybody around me. So it's not that I've chose to be this way, but again, I've chosen to be this way because I haven't gone out chasing skirts and whatever, trying to fill holes in a sense of in a weird sense. It's the only word that makes actually sense, but yeah. Okay, next question. You are a dedicated podcaster with over 200 episodes. How do you stay inspired, and what personal growth or self-awareness have you gained from sharing your life so publicly? Well, I try to pull back where I can, because I don't keep that many friends at all, really. I don't have to worry about my little circle saying anything, negative towards me about it. My circle is those pretty much in my household. I do have coworkers who I guess I consider my friends, but I don't take it really home with me. I don't pull all that stuff along, so I can just be me. And not to mention, I don't really share my podcast with my friends, so it's not really a problem I have to worry about. I guess I'd have to worry about it if I ever became famous, because my whole life would be on blast. And in that case, hey, you can choose to like me, be around me, or not. And if you don't, so what? And that's it. Let's see if I answered that question properly. How do you stay inspired? Oh, how do I stay inspired? There's always something to say, it's the things that I try to talk about are things that could possibly help other people. So, because there's a lot of people on this earth, because I have children, because I like to help people, because I care about people who can't help themselves, I'm okay to be open. And, even though my parents weren't that open, they were always helping. So if anything, I've taken on whatever it is they were doing, and I've expanded it in the way that I'm okay to also bare my soul. And the reason why I guess I'm like that is because my parents didn't really bare their soul to me. So I want to be different, at least in that respect. And at the same time, if I can help people, then at least I'm starting to approach who they were in that sense. I suppose there's a lot of stuff that I could probably have said in my, what do you want to say? My little short essay is just the stuff that I could possibly think of. So this thing's trying to come up with the best questions it can possibly ask me. It hasn't really stumped me yet. And I guess if I wasn't sitting here with time, I guess I could be pausing and thinking about the question and trying to answer it as more intelligently if I, really wanted to. But I'm just trying to do this on the fly. This is live. So if somebody was sitting in front of me asking these questions, I'd be answering it the same way. Except I'd have a couple of eyes staring at me. But you were fired once from a job for a lapse in judgment involving return items. How did that experience affect your view on integrity, and what steps did you take to rebuild trust in yourself? Well, here's the joke with that situation. Okay, the messed up part is that I just received the biggest paycheck of the year, and I look forward to that paycheck every year because I was a commission salesperson, so I had to hustle, and I hustled my butt off. Anyhow, I can't remember what the sales were that. I think I had probably made for one day. I think it was it Boxing Day? I think I had sold. Remember, this is just clothes, right? There's some suits, but mostly just random clothes. I probably sold maybe 4 suits out of the whole day. But I had sold over $24,000 worth of stuff for the Bay that day. Just me, just hustling. Anyway, when that paycheck finally came, the paycheck was pretty big, and I had to pay all the bills. I had to make up for some lapse in judgment because of my first wife at that time, my XX. XX. This is XXX. Anyhow, I was broke, and I just received within the week the biggest paycheck of the whole year, something that I anticipated the whole year. And because it was just me working, doing the man thing, I needed to figure something out because I needed more money. So what I did was I had purchased some ties. Where was I going to wear these ties? To every place that I would go at that point. At that point in my life, I was working 5 days a week, and then I would get a day off, usually be a Thursday. And then on the Sunday, I would be back at church. And guess what I would be wearing? A suit, just like I would wear a suit every day. Some people think I dress real bummy now these days, but I literally used to wear a suit and leather shoes. I don't wish this on my worst enemy. Leather shoes damages your feet if you have to wear them every single day. So I would say for at least, let's say 5 years, even though I worked there for 8 years, but let's just give it a good, let's say 6. For 6 years straight, except for when I got, the week or the 2 weeks off of vacation, I worked Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday I got off, Friday back at work, Saturday back at work. Those 2 days are my hardest days. And then Sunday at church, most times in the morning and the evening. And then do it all over again every week. And I was always wearing a suit. Anyhow, so I bought ties. These ties, I think there was an issue with their system. Everything had been marked down really weirdly. They were supposed to be $20. I got them for $2. Yes, so I bought about 10 ties, I think. Anyhow, what happened was, I guess there was the glitch in the system. At that time, the Bay had this policy is that if as long as it's our item, we will take it back, and we will, if it's a no bill return, we will just give you whatever our system says it's worth now. So if it was a sale price, the sale price would be the last thing that would come up on the register. Makes sense, right? Because you never know when somebody got sale. Oh, I lost my receipt, so they can get full price, right? So anyways, in my case, of course, I was an inside, so it was like kind of like insider trading. So I was like, oh, we're doing this for, I kind of justified it within myself. We do this for our customers and so-called customers who come through the store all the time. We just take it back. As long as it's in perfect condition, we can sell it again. We'll just take it back and give them whatever the last sale price was. They had a glitch in the system, so the ties that I got for $2 were now, well, not $2, $1.99 were actually supposed to be put in the system at $19.99. So what I did was I brought back 3 ties to get a little money, because I'd been sucked dry and I needed some money. I don't know what it was. I don't know what that guy needed $63 for, whatever the heck it was, or $68, whatever it was. Anyhow, it came up on the system, or maybe somebody was just watching me. I assume they were just watching me. So I got in trouble for that, and they said we had to let you go. And that was it. And that was how I lost my job, being an idiot. But what did I learn about integrity? Well, obviously, if you're an insider and you know the situation, you know that something possibly happened, and you can try to play dumb all you want or try to be blind to it or whatever it is. But in the end of the day, people are putting their trust in you. And when you're on the inside of things, you need to have a higher sense of moral character and integrity when dealing with your employer or anybody you're with. So steps I took, didn't really take any steps per se. I just realized it was a dumb mistake, and I deserved what I got. But again, even though I sinned, even though I did something wrong, it propelled me into better places. So, that's where, you look at the scripture again, where it says all things work for good to those that are called by God, those who love God, those who are called according to his purpose. So I realized that if I had stayed at that job, I probably would have been there still, on the crappy paying job, really. But the joke is, maybe I wouldn't, because actually I know I wouldn't be, because what ended up happening is the people that I worked with, we were a team of 4. One of them, he quit. There's the 4. We were just the suit department, Bay Scarborough. One died, and he quit and then he died of cancer. The other 2, they both got fired as well for different things, dumb things, but trying to help customers. Really gray areas there at the Bay. I don't know. But anyways, I just recently heard that one of my coworkers, she died, or older lady, cancer again. So 2 of us died of cancer, and the other 2 of us are still around. And I see the other guy every once in a while, and we shoot the stuff, and we talk about old times a little bit here and there. But yeah, I learned it. You gonna learn today, they say. Next question. And I can honestly tell you that it's so much more freeing, just to be honest. I'm sure there's people who would dispute my stories a little bit, but it is what it is. And I'm not trying to say that I have the best memory, but from what I remember, this is what happened, and I'm just saying it. Yeah. Anyhow, when it comes to your Jamaican Canadian identity, do you ever feel torn between cultures, expectations, your own personal choices, especially regarding family roles and spiritual beliefs? Not really. A Jamaican Canadian, but Jamaican Canadian man. I first consider myself a Christian. Then I consider myself a man. Then I consider myself Canadian because I was born here. Then I consider myself Jamaican. And I don't really ever get torn between any of that stuff. I've taken everything that I've experienced and understand in life together, and I just deal with it as such. I'm not conflicted in any way. There's time and places for all of my pieces to come out. Okay, next question. You have navigated broken dreams, failed promises, marital breakdowns. How do you cope with disappointment, and where do you find the resilience to keep moving forward? Well, first I'll say that all my resilience comes from my God and my parents and whatever is inside of me, which are these people and this God. So all I can do, I can't move back in time. I can't really fix anything, but I just try to cope and move forward one day at a time, one step at a time. And, you know, those marriages were difficult in their own ways, but the most difficult thing I deal with, honestly, now that I look back at life, is the loss of my family members, to tell you the truth. The marriages, I can honestly tell you, the last one really felt like a death as well. But of course, I didn't decide that we weren't going to be together. I tried to glue it back a couple times, and at some level, I just wasn't the person that the other person wanted to be with anymore. And there's not much I can do. You know, there's nothing you can do if you have or you're with somebody and they no longer want to be with you anymore. There's not much you can do. So you just have to move forward. You have no choice. Get busy living or get busy dying, right? Let's see. If someone were to judge you based on one aspect of your past, such as infidelity or your strict religious upbringing, how would you respond to clarify who you really are at your core? I guess it would just depend on at what level they would like to judge me on it. I mean, you can judge me if you want, but I know that I only have one judge I need to be concerned about, and that's God. And that's now, and that's at the end of life, for sure. But I know that what he says in his word is that he forgives you. If you ask for forgiveness, if you turn away from your wicked ways and you're not doing those things anymore, he says he's faithful and just to forgive you. And that's what I bank on. I bank on his word. And that's what I live the rest of my life on. I'm not saying I'm always perfect. Some people think that, okay, if you're this person and then you have a misjudgment, or you lack in judgment somewhere, or you fail in this way, or you err in this way, that you're just that person. And I don't believe that you treat people according to the lowest thing they've ever done for the rest of their life. And once they've had a track record of being different, then I believe that they are a new person. They are a different person. I didn't kill anybody. I didn't not try to fix things that I made bad. Even with the ties, I came back the next day and gave the money back. And everything was settled and everything was straight. I just had to find a new job. And again, it was because of me. It was my own fault. So I deserved what I got. So for me to really prove who I am, I guess they'd have to be around me. See how I interact with other people, what I do. You know, the places I go, the things I say, stuff that comes out of my mouth, you know, my actions. And beyond that, if you're going to judge me, well, guess what? There's 8 billion of us on this planet. And if you don't like this one, there are many people for you to hang out with and be with. Yeah, I'm cool. So I guess that's about it. I'm okay if somebody judges me. Maybe I'd try to explain myself if I cared enough for that person and I wanted them to be a part of my life, then maybe I would try to prove by my words and actions how I'm different from those bad parts of my life. But yeah, beyond that, there's nothing I can do. You have a passion for sports. Well, I used to, especially hockey. yet you stopped watching in 2005. Yeah. How does this connect to your broader outlook on loyalty, ambition, and even letting go when something no longer resonates with you? Well, I have no problem letting go. And the joke was, in 2005, I'd been watching hockey all of my life. Since I was 4. I was collecting hockey cards. I had hockey cards that were older than me. Matter of fact, there's 2 hockey cards that I sold. Hey, me selling stuff again for $20 each. Mario Lemieux rookie cards that I bought in a pack of 5 for 25 cents when I was about 10, 11. Yeah, so I came up on that. I got all my money back. But I just realized the Toronto Maple Leafs weren't trying to win at that age. I mean, me and my friend, we actually, first time I ever did this, we went out to Swiss Chalet and we were going to eat our meal and we were going to watch TV. This new Swiss Chalet in the area. And the Leafs just took a bad beating. I think at that time on that team was Wendell Clark. What do you call it? Matt Sundin and what's his name? And Doug Gilmour. That team and Curtis Joseph in net, and they couldn't do anything. And they were first in the division, and they went out in the first round. And I said, you know what? That's it. Never watching hockey again. And honestly, I've never watched a full game of hockey ever again. And they've never won. So guess what? I can become a fan again. And guess what? What have I missed? Absolutely nothing, because they still haven't won, and they haven't won since 1967. So. Time well spent for me. And how does that, let's see, how does this connect to the broader outlook and loyalty and ambition? Well, if you're with someone and they have no loyalty and they have no ambition, and they don't care about the people spending money or whatever the case is, then you should be okay with letting go, because they have let go a long time ago. No problem. All right, moving on. Next question. I think I only have a few more. I only have 3 more questions. Let's get this really quick. It's already an hour and 30 minutes. Many people have dreams of fame or going big with YouTube or podcasting. What have your own attempts and content creation taught you about success, failure, and personality? Well, I would say honestly, some people who get rich or get popular, which, why would you want to be really popular? But people who succeed in it, I think some people get lucky, right time, right place, get blessed. And then the other people, most of the people have to be totally obsessed and constantly creating it to the best of their ability. You can't do a half-assed job and expect to be, successful in any of these places. And even if some people make it big by accident, which there's not very many accidents, it'll rub off if you're not doing what's right to be successful in that area. So in other words, you might have 1 or 2 viral videos. Usually somebody who, the average person who has any type of success, let's say on YouTube, usually that person, I can't make this any, okay, this goes as long as it goes. Okay. Usually the people who make it big off a video usually only have 1 big video, and then people look at their part 2 or their next act on, say, YouTube, and find that everything, it's kind of like down from there. Most people, unless you're like, well, I'm not going to call any names, but anyway, I've realized you just have to be consistently putting out good content that people care about. Now with mine, I don't know that anybody really cares, because the thing is I'm not an ex-actor or an ex-athlete or ex-businessman, so I won't have a following from any particular area. But the only thing I have is my personality, and that's the only thing that's going to help me, and putting out good content. And if it catches on, it catches on. If it doesn't, then guess what? If I ever have grandkids, like I know that I have I have 2 grandnieces and 1 grandnephew. My brother who passed away, one of his sons has kids. So eventually, if they turn on and want to learn a little bit about our family, or if one of my kids decide to have kids, then here's granddad. Right? That's it. Let's see. Next question. Second last questions. Question. You have been single for several years now. Do you see this time as necessary for healing, or do you feel ready to explore a new connection if the right person appears? Well, I only want what's right for me and what's right for my kids under the watchful eye of God. So I haven't been begging for it. I haven't been chasing it. And honestly, for the last couple of years, because of the deaths of my mother and my sister and my mother, respectively, 2 years, it's been a lot of healing and alone time. And I think I've needed it. So it is what it is. That's all I can say for that. Finally, if you were to paint an honest picture of who you are today, says my job, I'm going to blank that out. Father, podcaster, Canadian Jamaican, deeply shaped by life's highs and lows. What 3 core qualities best describe you to a potential partner? Okay. Well, knowing that I've had the same job for 18 years, I'm a person that knows how to commit. And even my marriages, they weren't like a flash in the pan. I spent a lot of time behind it trying to fix what was broken, trying to hold up that which was fragile and frail, knowing who I am coming from parents from a country which I like to really call a plantation, and not knowing my full history, not knowing where my last names come from, neither mine, neither my mother's maiden name, her parents' names, or my father's. These foggy images that I've been given by them as to who is who, they've shaped me a little bit. And now I'm trying to get in touch with who our people have been, but knowing that we were all born and shaped in iniquity, knowing that we were born sinners, we're not born little angels. And that's the reason why a 2-year-old will have a tantrum. If you're a little angel, it wouldn't be having a tantrum. We were born in sin and shaped in iniquity. So therefore, I don't really worry about all the stuff that I've learned, whether or not it's brought me forward, but I know that I'm here and all I can do is do my best. And beyond that, nobody can really ask anything of you if you've done your best. So anyhow, that's it. All right. So guys, I've had a podcast like this before, I'm pretty sure, but I think these are probably better questions when I probably did it over a few different episodes and other times. But anyhow, that's it. See y'all next time. Remember, this podcast is for entertainment purposes only. It's not here to embarrass or shame anybody. So as best as I could possibly protect any situation, I think I did that to the best of my ability. At the same time, I try to be honest. As you know, I don't really keep friends that much, so I don't have any friends that I'm going to embarrass because I'm their friend. Nor did I really say much that is really that embarrassing. It's shameful that I got fired, but I mean, I am who I am. Sorry. So it is what it is. Anyhow, till next time, hopefully these podcasts can help somebody maybe not do what I did and maybe be a better person, or be comforted that they're not only going through it alone, but they're going through it, but there's other people who have been down that road before. So as I said, if I can open a door for you and you can walk in, just say thank you and move on. All right, take care. This is MCM and I am out. Take care. Oh yeah, before I go, remember, if you have any questions you want to ask, or maybe you have a topic that you want me to talk about, you can email me at yprpodcast@gmail.com. Take care. Hey, come check out You Probably Right podcast. Society is getting more unpredictable every day, but at the same time, predictable in its unpredictability. Say that 4 times real fast. Come with me as I attempt to find clarity in all the fog while staying way outside the box and kicking the box way down the road with my size 12 docs. I use the Bible, experience, education, fortune, misfortune, life's lessons, life's mistakes to sort through all the mess. I talk about news, God, God, self help, sports, sickness, health, music, parenting, love, humbleness, hurt, pain, joy, and all the things that might make you say, I never thought of it that way. Hopefully, anyway. Also, I take a stab at answering tough and not so tough questions, and all the while understand that, listen, sometimes you end up in the hot seat and there's no thermostat. Well, that's how it is here. And because there's no topic, well, very few topics off the table, Torontonians will understand that Doug Ford reference there. Hopefully, the podcast will be helpful and uplifting. And hey, maybe you'll find your own private Idaho here somewhere. Hope to see you soon.